Good evening, everyone. It's time to call to order this meeting of the Gallatin City Council Committee. It is September 12th, 2023. The time is 6:01. I'm going to ask Ms. Kittrell to call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Love.
Here.
Councilman Carter.
Present.
Councilman Fan.
Here.
Councilman Fennell.
Here.
Councilwoman George.
Here.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
And Councilman Juvance. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. This evening, you have the minutes from the August 22nd, 2023 Council Committee meeting for your consideration.
Move to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve by Councilwoman George, second by Councilman Hayes. Any corrections? Ms. Love?
I have just one. It's on page 5 of the minutes, and it is under other business, on the second bullet. It says the Soul event, but I know that they mean stall, S-T-O-L, that the airport had.
That was probably a foreign word, Ms. Kittrell, right? You were doing the best you could. Thank you, Vice Mayor Love. Anyone else with any corrections, additions? All in favor of approval with that adjustment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Minutes are unanimously approved. Public recognition is next on our agenda. However, I do have a proclamation to present this evening, and there's a crowd of folks here. Without objection, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll do the rest of the mayor's comments later. Fine with everyone? Okay, then I would welcome the Holiday Fest bunch to join me at the podium. Yeah, I bet you can't guess they're the ones in the Santa hats. Or red. I did, just for y'all. Thank you. I said, I'm usually wearing something very summery, and you show up in Santa hats, and I wanted to be a little bit holiday-ish. Well, we'll introduce everyone in just a moment, but I want to talk and present this proclamation to you all. As you're well aware, over the years, holiday events in Sumner County and in Gallatin have grown substantially, largely due to this group. You all will be excited to know that we are working on growing them even more. So hopefully there'll be some news about that soon. But this is a proclamation by the mayor, and it says, whereas the city of Gallatin, Tennessee proclaims that the holiday season began in Gallatin on September 1st, 2023. And whereas organizations in the city of Gallatin will host Tinsel and Treasures, Appalachian Dinners, the annual Christmas tree lighting, the Sparkle Noel Fashion Show and Tree Auction, the Christmas Harvest Craft Show, the Elves Holiday Workshop, Tuba Christmas, Wreaths Across America, the St. Nicholas Ball, and the annual Christmas Parade. And whereas the city of Gallatin will hold Holiday Fest celebrations to conduct and enjoy the true spirit of the season. And whereas the city of Gallatin proclaims Holiday Fest annual events which honor community, creativity, literacy, charity, and tradition, and honors volunteers with an annual King and Queen and Royal Court. Now, therefore, I, Paige Brown, Mayor of the City of Gallatin, do hereby declare the 2023-2024 Holiday Fest season to be in effect until January 31st, 2024, and encourage all citizens to participate in these special celebrations to establish holiday spirit and encourage giving. You all, I would invite you to introduce everyone that's here and then speak a little bit about what you do and the ways that you support charities in these areas. I don't know who your spokesperson wants to be. That would be you.
Take care of it.
Should have known.
So thank you very much, Mayor Brown, for having us here and for recognizing us again with your proclamation. This is our 18th year of having this event for 501c3s raising money in Sumner County. You mentioned a bunch of the events that we do, and so there's no need to say those again. Just know that we put these things together so that Sumner County people can benefit from all the events that we do. And if I may bring up one that's coming up next week on the 18th, it is the Champions of Valor Breakfast, which is going to be at the Gathering Place, just right around the street on the Gallatin Road. But it is honoring all of our SROs in Sumner County. William Lambert is going to be there as a speaker. Farrah Hale will be there. Mayor John Isbell will be there. It is a benefit for CASA here in Sumner County, but we will be honoring all the SROs for our schools. So if you have an opportunity to be there at 8:30 in the morning, please come and visit and be with us for that breakfast and in celebrating our SROs that have given so much for our kids. Another new event that's happening this year is the Sumner Food and Wine Festival, which is September 22nd and 23rd at Saunders Ferry Park in Hendersonville. And it is something that is brand new, but on Friday night, there will be a dinner specifically for, I think it's 100 or 150 people. There will be 5 chefs from different places around the country, not just Nashville, but from New York and Chicago. They're preparing 5 different courses to go along with paired wines, which will be a great event to have on, and that's a Friday night. But on Saturday, it's open to the public, and it's another great event to come out and participate in. It's family friendly. It's just a neat thing that we're trying to do in Sumner County that we've never done before. And that one actually benefits the Shalom Center right here in Gallatin. So many, many events, holidayfesttn.org. Please go to it and see all the things that we do, and please come and participate. And thank you again.
Can you introduce everyone?
I don't know everyone.
Maybe
They can introduce themselves because that would be the best way.
And then we'll take a group
We
photo.
can start with Peter. I know him.
You all would introduce yourselves,
Yeah.
please.
Just say-
I'll get out of the way.
I'm Peter Erickson.
I'm Beverly Cannon-Jones, and I'm Vice President.
Irene Erickson.
Arlene Cunningham?
Connie Maynard.
Beth Pickle.
There we go.
Well, thank you all so very much. Would you like to have a photo maybe here?
Sure.
That would- Okay. We'll do that. Oh, what about your king and queen?
Tim is not here. I don't know where they are. Our king and queen this year is Tim and Deborah Watson. I don't know if y'all know Tim Watson, the fiddle man. He is unbelievable. So,
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you all so much, and we look forward to a happy holiday season. Thank you all for that little glimpse of the holidays ahead. With that, we're going to move now to public recognition. This is the time of the meeting. Actually, it's a committee meeting, so all public recognition happens at the beginning of the meeting. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. We ask that you give us your name and your address for the record, and you can speak to anything that is on the agenda or not on the agenda. But we'll begin public recognition. I'd remind you to be considerate, and we will try to do the same for you, certainly. We welcome you all to speak at this time. Public recognition is open. Does no one wish to speak? I thought so. Where's my phone?
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Marty Brooks. I live at 121 Lancaster Court, which is off Hampton Place, which is down from the new Avery Trace development that's coming up. First of all, again, thank you for letting me speak. It's a little disheartening how many people have told me when I told them I was going to speak, they said, why? It's already a done deed. But I have a suggestion that I hope you all take into consideration. When you come down Hampton Place, there is a greenway little circle. And if we were to convert that to a traffic circle, that would be a very good way of slowing down the traffic that will be coming down from Avery Trace, East Main, to go to 31E and vice versa. The city owns that little piece of property. I double-checked, went to Taj Mahal and double-checked. It would only require, and I have charts. I was an art major. So I have a chart. This is the current, and this is the proposed, and I sent copies to all of the people on the council. It would only mean moving the circle perimeter inward a little bit in order to have signage and the right-of-way for the cars to go around. If this doesn't work, then we could also consider speed cushions, which is another option. But this would not be of a great expense. It would just be removing and redoing the curbing. The city owns the property. At this point, one of the neighbors has been mowing it. We've all taken turns in the past mowing it. But anyway, I will leave this up for everyone else's consideration, and I appreciate it. Thank y'all very much.
Ms. Brooks, I want Nick Tuttle to raise his hand because he's our engineer. Nick Tuttle, raise your hand. He's our engineer. And I want you to know Bill McCord too, because you were just speaking his love language, so. Bill, raise your hand so she'll know who you are. He's actually our city planner, but he's a big fan of roundabouts, so.
Okay. And I spoke last time that there was an excellent article or report on NPR concerning speed, the traffic circles, and how one city in Indiana has gotten rid of almost all of their intersection traffic lights and have implemented the traffic circles, and the reduction of car accidents, injury is just amazing.
Yeah, you and Mr. McCord need to be good friends.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Next to speak this evening.
Everyone, my name's David Deere. I live on 805 East Main Street, and I'd like to address the Avery Trace development that's going to be under consideration for rezoning tonight. I'm just going to read through a few points here just for your consideration and as much for the audience there, because I had an opportunity to go into more detail, especially on the traffic study that was conducted, which is really of major concern to myself. At the zoning meeting a few weeks ago, everyone agreed that this is prime property to be developed, and it was just went on and on about it. There was 2 hours discussion at the time. 10 or 15 people talked, mostly from Timber Lane, one from Hampton Lane, and everyone agreed that it's prime, it's pristine, and they understood it. At that time, I think the outcome of the vote was to go ahead and to recommend to you the rezoning from R40, which I believe is one house per acre, to R8, which is up to 8 houses per acre. And the way this thing works out, it's actually going to be seven residents per acre, because only, I think, 47 acres of the 110 is being developed, 48 acres of the 110, 62 acres are not. But it's going to be extremely high dense. I mean, understand the terminology. You'll have one category for high density and 3 for mid-range. This is the most mid-range it could possibly be in terms of development, and they're asking for an exemption for the maximum number of townhouses. What I really want to just focus on is, again, East Main, 1.6 miles, 81 residents, the entire 1.6 miles. The 2 side streets, which you have, which is Faraway Hills, a new development, R20, 21 houses in Oda Ray, adding an additional 33 houses that's in those 2 developments. So all told, it's this development will increase it more than twofold in terms of the number of residents up and down the street. The impact, it's going to be a 4-fold increase, 400%. The residents along the 1.6 miles of East Main, 2.2 times if you include these 2 new developments over the last 10 years. Big concern myself is the traffic study. I reviewed the traffic study as a consultant. I have, let's just say, you have a client, you have a consultant, and you kind of let the 2 meet. The project alone doubles the daily traffic on East Main from 2,643 trips a day. And if you had natural growth, that would go up to 2,990, or almost 3,000. This project alone will add 2,686 trips per day, so it will more than double. The study confirms that Hampton and 31 East, the service condition, they grade 8 it's there. They rate it from A to, I think it's E. Currently, it's a B rating, almost an A, just borderline A, but even this study will have it as a D. Peak turning between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, in today's numbers, at least from what I saw, is 926 per hour. That's 15 a minute, if you know where that's located, on to 31. The more important thing, neither Bentley Circle, which is an alternative to Hampton, Cotton Circle, which is an alternative to Hampton. Reynolds, which is an alternative to Hampton. They were not studied, despite them all logically being an alternative entrance point to 31. Nor was Francis or Club, which both abut East Main Street, turn up and go on to the other two streets there. And I mean, 31 East and East Main with the light wasn't even studied. 25, Highway 25 in East Main was not studied, despite the project, which I find this hard to believe, projecting that 2/3 of the trips will be down 25 instead of 31. I live there. The main concern is public safety. I see we have an officer here tonight. I live there. I've lived there over 20 years. East Main Street was never intended to be a collector street. There's no shoulders. There's no sidewalks except for the first 3/10 of a mile that just go up the part of about halfway up the historical district.
Hear your time.
Okay. The side of vision on both of those is about 350 feet. That's my concern.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Now would be your time.
Good evening. Mark Algrim, 855 East Main Street. My neighbor down the street, I can't add anything better than what he just advised you. The numbers are staggering, but you're not looking at 25, you're not looking at 31. Right now, this morning, you go and you try to get out there while the kids are trying to be picked up for school and whatnot and merge onto Hartsville Pike to come into downtown. It's horrific. You're gonna sit there forever waiting for somebody to allow you to come in and get into the traffic so you can work your way towards Vietnam Veteran, so you can sit in traffic either on Red River or East Main, trying to cross Nashville Pike and whatnot. And the fact that there are no shoulders. So there is no alternative other than driving, because it's not safe to walk down the street due to the speed or due to the traffic conditions that we now are experiencing as residents on 855. So the question I ask you is, what do you want Gallatin to be? What kind of vision? I've read some of your paperwork that you have on your websites and how you think it's going to be bucolic and how you want this open air space and everything such as that. And yet we're talking about putting a ton of homes into a compressed area and changing that, where we have an opportunity to make it more of an open space, more of a gem, if you will, for Gallatin. We're not doing so. So what's the legacy going to be for you all when you vote on this? Is it going to be something that you're going to be proud of, or is it going to be something cookie cutter that I can see down outside of North Nashville or on my way up through Rivergate or whatnot? I mean, I really moved here because, and I haven't been here as long as some of the others, but I've been here long enough, and we moved here because we loved it. We fell in love with the place. We loved the people. We loved the place, the space, if you will, the way that things were built and how you can move around in the community. But we think that if you're going to put 302 homes in an area that really is challenged to accept that number, you're going to have a heck of a time, and you're going to change things around. You're going to change the face of Gallatin. And I understand, frankly, that these things need to occur. Change occurs. Things move forward. It isn't like it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or even 5, to be honest. I can say that with fact. But how do you want it to be for the future? What's the perception going to be? Is it a place where kids can go out and you can run around and you can feel like you're in the outdoors? Or is it going to be everyone living on top of one another? So aside from all the safety concerns and my colleague, my neighbor, he was very adamant and he was very good with his numbers. I can't improve on that, but I can say that I feel just like he does, that we need to kind of step back and look at what we're doing to this area and how we can approach it and make it look better. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yeah. If y'all want to speak, you're welcome to come towards the front. So I'm not trying to guess each time.
I'm publicity shy, that's why I don't stand up here and wait. I'm Stephanie Vincent. I live at 301 East Morse Drive here in Gallatin. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I have come to talk about agenda item 3, which is the repeal of the street parking ordinance. I understand that the police department is overwhelmed with complaints about street parking. We've seen explosive growth in this town, last 5, last 10, last 15 years. I don't know that repealing a law or parts of a law because the police department is overwhelmed is the answer. I think maybe we need to do more to educate those people that come here. Let's put an insert into the electric bill. That's an idea of my neighbor. Put signs up at the entrances of the neighborhoods where you're having issues with people parking on the street. Put up the no parking street signs. Part of the problem is we have so many rentals now in our neighborhoods, and they're splitting the cost of the rent, which is exorbitant. So you're getting 6 cars at a house that's designed for 3. And in some cases, you have people that just don't feel like they need to use their driveway to park the cars. This isn't just me being irritated with people parking on the street. This is an ingress-egress issue in and out of the neighborhood. It is an issue for public safety vehicles that need to come down the street if there's a fire or somebody needs medical attention. It's an issue for public vehicles such as the garbage trucks when they have to manipulate around all of these vehicles that are parked on the street. So if it's an issue with people owning rental property, then they need to make sure there's enough street or off-street parking to accommodate all the renters in their home. But if it's just a property owner, we just need to do more to educate people, because changing a law because the police department is overwhelmed isn't a good way to go about it. Obviously, we need to grow our police department because we're not the little town we used to be. We're not the town that I moved to 19, 20 years ago. And if I follow this same logic, so if the police department starts getting too many calls about speeding, do we remove the speed limit signs? Do we raise the speed limit? You know, what if we get calls that, people are running stop signs? Do we take out the stop signs or just put up a, hey, stopping's optional, everybody, do what you want to do? Because that's kind of what they're doing. And it's frustrating. But I do want to commend the police department because we have so many wonderful officers under great guidance. I've never met one that I haven't liked. I mean, they're very responsive, they're very nice, and I think they're out there doing a great job in the community, but I think we need to give them a little help. So I would urge you to educate the people before we repeal the law, because it's also an issue for pedestrians, because as the gentleman before me mentioned, there aren't any sidewalks. And even if you put sidewalks in and allow street parking, most of the roadways aren't wide enough to accommodate 2 lanes of traffic and a lane of parking. So your pedestrians are stepping out into an oncoming lane of traffic to go around all the cars that are parked. And then if you have them parked all the way up and down the street, again, it's an issue for emergency vehicles coming through when there's a true emergency. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. I thank you all for the opportunity to speak. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you for your kind words for our PD.
My name is Jean Myers. I'm at 213 Faraway Hills Drive. I'm here to talk to you today about Article number 2. I was born and raised in New York, in Queens, New York, and after that I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, when it started booming. So I've lived in big cities my whole life. When I moved to Tennessee, I lived in Nashville for a while. But when I went overseas and came back, Nashville wasn't what it was before I left. And it wasn't a place that I wanted to live anymore because I was done with the city life. And so I found this great little house on East Eastland Street in this town called Gallatin that I didn't even know existed. And when I came up and I saw it, I knew it was mine. And I moved up here to get away from everything that I had lived my whole entire life. And unfortunately, I feel like Gallatin is moving exactly in that direction. And so now I'm wondering, where do I need to go to get some peace and quiet anymore. I can sit in my backyard and listen to the cows on that field that they're about to develop. And it's such a peaceful sound for me. I'm a teacher, and I teach over at Schaefer Middle School, and I can tell you each morning, just trying to make a left-hand turn onto 31 is like I take my life into my hands every day. And I just don't know how we're going to handle another 302 residences. And that's just the residences. How many cars are going to be at each one of these? How many drivers are going to be at each one of these? So, I mean, obviously, the gentleman who spoke before, he's got the statistics. And I was a little disheartened for the first woman that spoke, because she said, why would, people asked her, why would you come here? It's already a done deal. And I thought, oh, well, that just took the air out of my sails. Is it a done deal? I mean, I thought that this was what this was about, is hearing from the residents that live here. Gallatin has been my home now for 9-10 years. And that's a long time for me. I've moved around a lot, obviously. You heard where I came from. But, that's been a long time. But I'm seriously considering, like, this is not the place I want to be anymore. And that makes me really sad. And I really hope that you do consider things like that when you're making these decisions. I know money is something that that's always kind of a driving force. But we need to think of other things as well. And we need to think of the safety of our residents and our kids who are getting on school buses. And we just don't have the infrastructure for it. So I really do hope that you consider at least making the parcels larger, and perhaps not doing the whole 302, but, maybe kind of spreading them out a little bit so that maybe we can ease some of this. I hope you haven't made up your mind yet. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Foster. I live at 223 Timberlane Road, and I want to address the Avery Trace development. The concern that I have, like a lot of my neighbors, but the main concern I have is the fact that Timberlane is really and truly not a road. Timberlane is a lane and a half wide at the beginning, and the developers of this project graciously have gone from 22 houses on Timberlane to 8, which I'm very thankful for. But at the same time, Timberlane, the road itself, is not built to accommodate coming and going traffic for the half-mile length of that road. If a fire engine or an ambulance is coming down that road, or a truck loaded with construction, there are blind spots on Timberlane that I would highly recommend that you drive down. And toward the end, where Mr. Preston lives, you cannot see over that hill. And if a construction vehicle is topping that hill at a speed, it could be detrimental in a lot of different ways. So it really, truly needs to be studied. If this development goes forward, which I'm not anti-development. I don't think a lot of people here that are not anti-development. They are concerned about safety. And I'm very concerned about safety because I live at the end of Timberlane, and our neighbors, we all know to get over. Now, with construction traffic and with new neighbors coming in, they're not going to know that. And so the road truly needs to be widened to accommodate the future traffic of that road. I know that Gallatin is exploding. I own a business here in town. I've owned it for 35 years. I have to keep my building up. I paid my parking lot this year. I put on a new roof. And that's just part of maintenance to accommodate, and widening the road is maintenance to accommodate. So I ask that you would respectfully consider that in the discussion. Thank you very much.
My name is Jane Sudbury. I live at 1325 East Main Street. I have been here 67 years. My ancestors came here when this was still North Carolina. So we've, in my family, have seen a lot of people move in here. A lot of people. All of you probably. But anyway, I have no problem with the development because the development leaves over almost 60% of it is still greenland. They are putting a lot of houses close, but they're not putting as many houses as they could put in there. I feel like the problem is not the development. The problem is the city, the county, and the state of Tennessee that have not kept up with the road systems in this area for the growth that we have. East Main Street needs sidewalks, has for a long, long time, but they don't deem it necessary because they don't think anybody walks up and down it. Apparently, they never drive up and down it because it does need sidewalks. It does need to be widened. And as far as the traffic going in and out and slowing it down, they were talking last time I was up here about people jumping the hill. Well, they've been jumping the hill since my daddy was a kid. So, I mean, that's been going on forever. Nobody's slowed them down. Nobody's done anything to make that a different scenario. The lady who came up with the roundabout, that would solve a lot of problems on East Main as well. I know roundabouts take a lot of space, might have to move more into the development in order to do that. Hate to take the people that already live there's property to do that. But the problem is not the people. The problem is the lack of development in our town for the amount of cars that you're trying to move up and down. So if you vote for this, have in mind how you're going to deal with all the traffic, because that seems to be most people's problem. So roundabouts, widen the street, put some sidewalks, do something about 31 that's taken everybody that comes to Nashville, Gallatin from Macon County and Westmoreland to work. And they really get angry if you try to pull out in front of them. They will run you over. So you need to do something about that traffic first or during this development, but not shut the development down. I think it's a great thing they're doing with that property, leaving most of it for greenland. And, you know, everybody has a right to sell the property. So that's all I have to say. Deal with the road system first and foremost. Thank you.
My name is Steve Sudbury, and I live at 1325 East Main also. First of all, when you talk about 31 and you talk about the amount of traffic, her father, maybe Paige's dad, they remember when East Main Street used to be 31. It was the main street. 31 wasn't even here. So we took some traffic off of East Main and we put it out on 31. Back in the days when Westmoreland had factories and things up there, you didn't have a lot of the Westmoreland traffic. You didn't have people driving from Lafayette. We've had so many people move out and drive back in that the traffic has just gotten horrendous. I live right next to this development. I own property on Timber Lane as well. They're gonna straighten that road out, but I'm like Mike, that road's 18 feet wide, is that right, Mike? The Timber Lane's 18 feet wide? Give or take some. You can't pass two vehicles on there most days if they're of any size. A lot of us drive pickup trucks with wide mirrors. Two of those trucks can't pass at the same time. It's just not big enough. It should have been widened probably years ago. East Main should have had sidewalks years ago. And we've got a lot of growth. All of us that have had businesses here, from Craig to Steve to myself, we survive because Gallatin is growing and people are coming here. It's a great place to live. we're not like, we're like every other city that's having growth. We're experiencing problems. I have no problem with the development. I spoke to everybody before in reference to Timberlane when they realigned that with Hampton. I think the idea of making the traffic circle on Hampton will slow people down as well. But I also have no problem with both of these entrances creating traffic circles on East Main. That'll slow people down also. The majority of the people, well, not the majority, but I'd say at least a third are going to come out of the new development, turn right, and then try to turn left on Hampton. So that, and it's only going to be about 400 or 500 feet from the entrance, going to turn out and turn around, stop again, and turn left. So a traffic circle would make that easier. It would also make everybody that decides not to fight the traffic in the morning on 31 through the school zones and stuff that use our street to come down into town, it will slow them down as well. So I think there's some things that we could do that would make it better, but I don't have any problem with the development. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak this evening? Okay, saying none, I'll declare public recognition closed and move now to mayor's comments. I do have several things to mention this evening. I'll try to move quickly. First of all, I certainly want to recognize our Gallatin Fire Department for the 9/11 service that they did yesterday for our community. It was a beautiful service as always. Also had the pleasure to hear Chief Woodward speak at the Alexander Funeral Home event. Want to say a big thanks to them, to the folks that put out the flag. I believe it was the Junior ROTC and the Fire Explorers did all those flags in front of Alexander Funeral Home, and they had a program there yesterday. And then Chief Beeman actually spoke at the Gallatin Chamber of Commerce luncheon yesterday and did a beautiful job as well. In addition to that, we had a number of firefighters who participated in the 9/11 stair climb this weekend, and I do want to read their names to you because that is quite a feat and quite a beautiful way to remember their fallen brothers and sisters. They were Caleb Carter, Colton Hahn, Ethan Stinson, Josh Wheeler, Nick Kirkendall, Zach Morrison, Josh Seward, Greg Pack, Philip Lazio, Brad Spooner, Ken Connolly, Jeff Swift, Russ Hopkins, Chad Lynn, Angelisa Rios, Blake Hahn, Matt Mills, PJ Bradford, Jeremiah Hackert, Brett Victor, Rich Goddard, Cody Morgan, Sean Raymond, TJ Sexton, Kylie Lawrence, Jake Snow, Houston Anderson, Tyler Rackey, Ben Sproul, Clay Swafford, Ben West. Vice Mayor Love, did I mispronounce anybody's name that you're aware of?
I think you did a good job.
Excellent, I'm glad to know it. She knows more of the firefighters better than I do. So congratulations and a huge thank you for all of the fire department's efforts related to the 9/11 solemn memorial of that terrible day. Oops, that was my timer from the last speaker. I also want to mention that this past weekend that there was a very successful Pawpalooza and doggy paddle pool party. Largest attendance ever, they said. It was tremendous, and they're already working on next year to figure out a way to accommodate everybody more comfortably. So that event's been going on for several years, and I think it has finally become very, very popular. Oh, and so would you agree that it was a great day?
Yes, it was.
Absolutely. Also, last week, our HR department hosted the benefits enrollment and the online, which was the online enrollment for benefits for next year, and also a wellness fair over at the Civic Center. Did you say about a third of our employees participated in the wellness fair? A lot of people getting flu shots. But we have 100% enrollment as of today. So all of our employees are now registered for their benefits for next year. That's a big victory, too. Several events coming up I want you to make sure that you are aware of. On the 14th, 2 days from now, Sumner Regional Medical Center and Ball State Sports Medicine is celebrating a signing day at the Pickle Field House at Ball State. The Gallatin Sertoma Club is having their truck and tractor pool both this Friday and Saturday evenings at Triple Creek Park at the back of the park, past the pavilion. That's from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. This weekend in Trousdale County is the Alpha Games First Responder Festival. Lots of competition between first responders in the area. That happens all day on that day. Also on the 16th and I think there's an event on the night before, which would be the 15th. And then on the 16th, it's the Dozer Day at the Comer Barn, where you have an opportunity to take children that might be interested in operating heavy equipment, to see some of that big equipment and to get to touch and maybe sit in and see how it works and get young people interested in different opportunities as they grow up. So that Dozer Day is happening in conjunction with the Barn Raising Music and Fall Festival, also at the Comer Barn. The Dozer Day hours are from 10 until 4. The Barn Raising Fall Festival is from 12 to 6 p.m. Also that night at Historic Stonewall is Songs and Stories. This month it's going to be King Corduroy and Dana B. They're supposed to be fabulous. That happens at 6:30. You can get tickets from the Sumner County Museum. Earlier, the Holiday Fest folks mentioned the Champions of Valor Breakfast. That's happening on the 18th at 8:30. And then the Vol State College Foundation Annual Dinner Celebration is coming up on the 21st. Also this Saturday is the Lions Club bike ride, the Grand Fondo, I want to pronounce it correctly. And I think that is all I need to mention. Does anybody else have any other events that we need to share here at the beginning of the meeting before people tune out? Okay. I think that is it for now, and that will conclude my mayor's comments and move us now to the regular agenda. And item number 1 is ordinance 02309-49, appropriating funds for the 23-24 carryover capital projects. Ms. Nichols, the finance director.
We have an ordinance here listing several projects that our departments need to have the funds reappropriated. They were originally appropriated last year, but due to various reasons, supply chain issues, slow-moving projects, et cetera, we need to have the funds reappropriated in the new year for them to continue these projects. I'll be glad to answer questions on any of them, but as I said, we've got a rather large list this year.
Discussing today in the department head meeting that it is an abnormally large list, but a lot of it's due to supply chain issues and Ms. Nichols' judgment. There's nothing there that shouldn't be, so.
Motion to send it on.
Second. Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilwoman George. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of moving ordinance 0230949 to council meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Does move on unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Item 2 is ordinance 02309-50, rezoning 2 parcels, 109.99 acres, tax map 112, parcel 033, and tax map 1121, group B, parcel 022.02, from R40 low-density residential to R8 PRD medium-density residential plan development district with the preliminary master development plan for Avery Trace located east of East Main and south of Timber Lane Road. Mr. McCord.
Yes, Council. Bill McCord, City Planner. This item tonight is a request by a property owner and their applicant to rezone a roughly 110-acre piece of property located on the southeast side of East Main Street, essentially between Hartsville Pike and Highway 31 or Broadway East. This is one of the largest tracts of land that's remained vacant in very close proximity to the center of town, and it's a wonder it hasn't developed or redeveloped before now. The applicant is requesting, again, the change of zoning from R40, which is a 40,000 square foot lot minimum, which was established many, many, many years ago, to the R8 PRD medium density residential planned residential development district, and they have a preliminary master development plan. As you can see, the properties are basically all developed immediately around it, and some development that is fairly new and some that's been there for quite a long time. You have R40 zoning. Let me see here, there we go. R40 zoning and larger estate lots on the west side. You have some R15, R20 zoning, and some smaller lot zoning on the Ray Estates, which includes some attached units, townhome units, You have, as it was described earlier, Timber Lane Road forms the north boundary, basically, of this property, and some property zoned agricultural with a large estate lot on there to the east. And to the southeast is the Enoch Hills development, single-family residential, and then the Green subdivision to the south, immediate south, and then the Venus Stewart School to the southwest. So all of the properties adjacent to this site are used residentially or either substantially vacant, but they may contain a home. The applicant is proposing to, was mentioned before by others, that the property contains some intermittent creeks and some topography, and the applicant is proposing a plan that will preserve, for the most part, all of these natural features and incorporate that into open space tracts. In order to do that, the applicant has designed a subdivision that has access at 2 points along East Main Street. One would be a realignment, a slight realignment of Timber Lane and Hampton. Hampton is the street that goes from East Main over to Highway 31. And also down, I believe that's Sunset further to the southwest. And then that would provide another four-way intersection a little bit to the southwest, closer to town. And then they have a labyrinth type of street, but interconnected street system interior to the site. They would be using a portion of Timber Lane for the larger single-family lots that would be across the street from existing single-family lots. And we'll get into some discussion about that street, and you've heard some things already tonight. But the public streets would be extended throughout the development and interconnect, including a couple of street stubs that would allow for future connections to occur depending on if these properties to the east or to redevelop and or to the west would redevelop or develop. So you can see the lot pattern here. They're proposing a total of 111 single-family attached units in the interior of the development, which is shown in where I'm circling here on the screen, but 191 single-family homes in the R8 district, well, 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. They vary in size, 5,500 to 6,000 and above on mostly the exterior portions. And they essentially will envelop the townhome lot. So you won't even see the townhome lots until you get into the center of the development. So there's a total of 302 residential units in there. They have different trip generation for the types of units they are. The single-family homes will generate a little more trips per unit than the townhomes will. And that would be about 2,600 daily trips that would be assigned to East Main Street and or other streets in the immediate vicinity. The other aspect of this is that in the PRD zoning district, it states in the code that the maximum number of townhomes cannot exceed 30% of the total number of units in the development. In this case, they do exceed that. They exceed that because they're proposing 36.8% of the total units would be townhome units. The Planning Commission considered that, and because of the extensive amount of open space that is in preservation of the natural features on this site, they agreed to that exception, and that's part of their recommendation. The code only requires for a PRD in this zoning district to provide 28% of the site as open space, and they are providing 57.3%, so more than twice the minimum amount required by the code. The Planning Commission did and heard a lot of comments, some of what you've heard tonight at their meeting last month, and most of those were centered around traffic, of course, as they were tonight. and they expressed some concerns. The applicant did, and their engineer did provide a traffic study with the PMDP, even though they're not required to. They did study some of the key intersections within the area. Nick might want to approach, he might want to ask, might want to mention some things. They studied this intersection of Timber Lane and East Main, the other intersection that will be constructed to the southwest, as well as the intersection of Hampton and Scottsville Pike or East Broadway, Highway 31. And they also addressed the intersection with Timber Lane. And Timber Lane would be realigned. You can kind of see that here where Timber Lane would actually retain, I guess it could change its name if there's no address there, but the main street, which would be built to city standards, so it would be extended from where Timber Lane roughly is now, realigned, and then Timber Lane would then branch off of that street in its current alignment. So there are some conditions of approval, and I'll get into those in just a minute, but there's probably one of those conditions that y'all need to make a decision on is what needs to be done to Timber Lane. And so they do have 8 additional single-family lots that they are wanting to plat, eventually plat, that would have access exclusively to Timber Lane and not one of the new interior streets. The development is, again, 302 units proposed on the 110 acres, so that's about 2.75 units per acre. The exceptions also that they requested, of course, are for the townhome size lots because most of the townhome lots that are developed in the city are not 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. It's what's called for in that zoning district, the R8 PRD district. Now, a couple of things, and I mentioned this the other day, is that the R40 and agricultural zoning districts represent 25% of the residential zoning in the city and almost 20% of all zoning in the city. And those are old zoning districts that have been around since zoning was first established in the city many years ago. And when the zoning code was updated initially in 1998, you created these new types of districts which allow for a lot more flexibility, but also allow for preservations of property and require minimum preservation of property so that these natural areas are not adversely affected. And you can also provide better treatment of stormwater and have that open space, common open space. So that is most of the new zonings that we've had in the city since the 1998 are zonings that would accommodate these mixed-use type developments or mixed-use size lots. So obviously, this request is in line with what's been occurring for more than 20 years in the city. The market for large lot type of zoning is very small given the cost of housing and related to the median family incomes. In addition, nearly all properties located immediately outside the city and much of Sumner County are zoned to permit lot sizes identical to the current R40 zoning district. So there's not a shortage of lots that are available and/or properties that can accommodate large lot developments, particularly when you consider this property is so close to the downtown area. I had mentioned open space. They provide more than twice the minimum amount of required open space. Part of that open space will also include as condition of approval, a greenway in the transportation element of the comp plan calls for a greenway to essentially extend from near the school complex and the stadium and Venus Stewart School eastward through the southerly portion of this property. So that was a condition of approval that greenway and an easement to accommodate that greenway would be provided for in one of these or several of these green space areas that they're showing on the south side of the property. What you also will get with this is, of course, streets that meet current design standards, including improvements to East Main Street adjacent to this property. So This will be a catalyst perhaps of surcharging the ability for East Main Street to have other improvements, including primarily sidewalks. And it was mentioned earlier by one of the speakers that East Main Street used to be US 31, probably before most of you were here and certainly before I was here. And that was the main road, and it is designated as a collector road now in the city's comprehensive plan. Traffic impacts, Nick, I don't know if you want to address this, but I will mention a few things. Is now about 2,650 daily trips on East Main Street at the count station, which is in the immediate vicinity here, count station 81. This development will add about that many trips to East Main Street. But the thing is, they will split. Once they get to East Main Street, they all don't go one direction on East Main Street. They're split, and as they get to Hampton or other streets, they're dispersed. So you're not going to have a doubling of trips occurring on that segment of East Main Street where the traffic count is taken. That traffic volume on there still represents a very good level of service for a collector roadway of that design. So we're not overtaxing the street. Now, the traffic study did not go beyond the intersections that I had identified earlier. So Hartsville Pike and East Main Street was not included in that traffic study, and neither was East Main and Highway 31 intersections, which are probably the other critical intersections in close proximity. So what will be required is a traffic study per the direction of engineering to address whatever intersections that they feel is appropriate to consider with this type of development at the FMDP stage. Stormwater facilities will be included, and those will be strategically located in close proximity to, and you can see them on this drawing here. They're different dark, lighter green or mid-green patterns. So they will be essentially tucked behind many of the homes in the open space tracts. And the darker green pattern will be tree or large tree and vegetation areas, which include the buffer yards, which will be preserved and included as part of the open space. This is more or less the lot pattern, which shows it a little differently. I think it shows up just as well in the color rendering. But this shows you the lot patterning in concert with the natural features, including the topography on the site. It's the southern portion of it, and that's the northern portion. Utilities as well as stream buffers are shown in this slide here, as well as, of course, the lot pattern, street pattern. The homes will be constructed of 100% brick and stone or stone on the rear and side facades, and a combination of brick and hardy board on the front. And so you can see that what they have is front-loaded garage there for the single-family homes and the variety of that they're having now. The applicant is here tonight and has a presentation that they'd like to provide to you. One thing I also want to mention, going back, and I'll go back to the color slide. I think it's easier to see what they have there. One thing they're doing is that, particularly in the area around the townhomes, they are proposing some on-street parallel parking, and they have a private parking facility on common area tract in the center of the townhome development to provide additional parking beyond what is required by the minimum of code to address visitors and deliveries and things of that sort. The Planning Commission did review this and, of course, and made a recommendation. Their vote was 3-2 with one abstaining. So we didn't have everybody there at the Planning Commission meeting. Traffic was, of course, was primary of concern, and the recommendation then is 3-2 to approve the rezoning with the master development plan with conditions of approval listed in your agenda package. And I think I went over most of those agenda conditions, some of the conditions that were listed in the Exhibit B of the ordinance in your agenda package. Be glad to answer questions, and Nick may want to add something about traffic. maybe not.
So the representative presents, or did you have something for?
Question for Bill, probably.
Okay, Mr. McCoy.
Bill, if you look at the estate homes that you showed on Timber Lane, they got to talking about the road being real small.
Mhm.
Sorry. These estate homes, is it possible that, and this might be for the developer too, pulling the houses back a little bit to offer some more footage to where that road can be widened? At the back of Timber Lane where it deads off in the back, is that deading off into part of the golf course back there right now?
No, it doesn't. It terminates in a large tract or a
I
large
see that.
lot.
So more than likely, one day, that roundabout that y'all put will be a connectivity road onto future development right there. So would Timberlake, correct? More
Not
than
according to
likely.
the property owner, but.
Yeah, it's all dependent on what that property owner might do with their large tract there. It's zoned ag. It does connect to the north side of Enoch Hills, and it wasn't too long ago that this body looked at that Enoch Hills Phase 3, and there is a stub out to that property. So if that property owner decides so one day that they're ready to sell and develop their property, there will be an opportunity for a street to essentially tie Enoch Hills to the backside of this property with a cul-de-sac. But also, there is a cul-de-sac already existing on Timber Lane a little bit farther to the north of the one shown on the drawing that you have.
I'm just saying, if we have an opportunity now, if the houses could be pulled back a little bit to give some more footage right there, it might help us in the long run as far as widening that Timber Lane Road. That's just,
Yeah, the specifics of the lot size, other than the square footage, say the width and the depth, at this stage are not really determined. That's when we get to the FMDP stage. So I just want you to know that those lots, those 8 lots, they're roughly 15,000 square feet. And they may be a little deeper or a little narrower, but either way, they're going to be at 15,000 square feet. And that was the big issue of concern, and you've heard that tonight, is although they're only adding 8 units onto frontage of Timber Lane, that street is narrow, particularly in the western portion of Timber Lane. It's a little wider in the back where the cul-de-sac is. So that is a concern, and that's included as a condition of approval, that be determined by the fire department and the engineering department as to how wide that street should be to accommodate emergency vehicles and you heard construction vehicles and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. You want to let the applicant do his? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Javance.
Thank you, Bill. You mentioned that they want an exemption from the size of the lots from the townhomes. What's the normal size and what they're requesting?
Okay, townhomes, I have that actually here. In the PRD district, which is an overlay district, it doesn't distinguish differences in townhome lot sizes. So a minimum lot size for single-family homes in the R8 is 6,000 square feet. Minimum lot size for one-family attached, semi-attached, and townhome units is 5,500 square feet, and they're asking for the 1,800 square feet.
How much?
1,800 square feet, townhome lots.
So the zoning say it's 5,500 and they're asking for 1,800. Okay.
That's been frequently granted for other similar types of projects in the city. Keep in mind about the amount of open space as well. Instead of having a private lot behind some of these townhomes, you have common open space.
Got comments to make about it too, but I'll wait until after the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. McCord. You did a good job at my presentation. Mike Stanton, represent the owner and applicant. Mr. Fennell, I can answer your concern or your comment, and I think it's a good one. It's one I think we've talked about, and I think we even agreed to at Planning Commission, and that is instead of having a 20-foot setback, we'd have a 30. I talked to Nick earlier today about that, and he said that would provide for future widening and allow the sidewalk to be out of any future widening. So we're already committed to that comment. And then in addition to that, up at the top where there's an S, if I can get this to point, in this S area here, this little loop here, engineering asked us early on in our preliminary discussions if we would make enough room for future widening. So we've also provided for that up in this area right here.
Future what?
Widening, for future widening, Nick felt that they needed some additional road frontage.
Okay.
And we agreed, so when we designed it, we held houses off of that, knowing that that would be something that could be used for future widening. First of all, before I start, I want to first acknowledge the residents that came out. I'll have to say this, and I've done this for many years. This is about the most civil group and gracious group that has come to any meeting that I've had. And that means a lot to me because this isn't easy for any of us. Growth isn't easy, change isn't easy.
Everybody's been very nice, and that comment was made at the Planning Commission, too, so we appreciate that, y'all, very
Yes,
much.
and so I just want to say that. We also, I mean, we look at everything, and we're concerned about the same things they're concerned about. And that's why we spend money, in this case, doing a traffic study up front, so we know the impacts, and we can discuss them from a engineering perspective and not just from, this is what I think. So we're a little premature on our traffic study, but I think it's important, and I think it proves to be important at this stage. So with that, I've got a presentation that I'm going to spin through just as quickly as I can. So I'll just get right into it. The plan that I present tonight is the result of a collaborative effort between us, the neighbors, and the Planning Commission members. We originally submitted what we believed was a good plan, but after getting feedback from the community and Planning Commission members, we believe that the plan we're presenting tonight is a great plan and one that incorporates the changes that addresses the concerns that we heard from all parties leading up to this last change. The revised plan as submitted is in large part a result of comments and design ideas from Mike Binkley, who is the landowner at the very top of the hill. He came to us after our Planning Commission meeting workshop next Tuesday, said, Mike, have you ever considered, because we had this road connected, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, sweeping this road down and taking all the traffic from our community down off of Timberlane. I said, Mike, that's a good idea. Let us look at it. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's not simply drawing a line. So we spent the time to review it and make sure that that could be done, and so that's what we've provided. But I just want to acknowledge Mike. He's not here. I think he's out of town tonight, but just want to make a public comment about that. That's a result of working together with the community. In addition to meeting with Mike, I also met in person with several homeowners who live on Timberlane. And for those who could not meet in person or come to our community meeting, we had Zoom calls. We held a community meeting on Thursday, August 24th at the Gallatin Country Club, where we invited 285 families via a letter mailed directly to their homes. Typically, the way you make notice of that is you put a sign out in the front of the property and hope that people see it. We took it a step further and mailed it to each individual homeowner, the 285. We had 14 families that registered at our community meeting, with a couple of families that chose not to. We were also honored to have Miss Love in attendance. The Tompkins Farm is nestled between 31 and 25 on East Main and Timberlane. Since the mid-1800s, the Tompkins family has owned this property. The family has watched growth happen all around them over the years. They've been approached multiple times. I think it was alluded to why it hasn't been developed before now, throughout the years to sell their property, but elected not to because they didn't feel like they had the right buyer, the right builder, or the right plan. They have the right combination now and would like to sell their farm like nearly all other landowners around them have. They are asking for the same consideration that has been afforded to others surrounding them. The farm has significant natural and hydrological resources which are predominantly protected in the master plan. By working to protect these natural resources and by using the cluster plan method, Avery Trace provides 63 acres of the 110 acres or 57.83% open space. It's been mentioned that's more than double the required 28%. It's located in the general urban character area of Plan Gallatin, which would allow between 5 and 15 units per acre or 550 to 1,650 homes. Even though that is a vision plan for that area, that's not realistic, and we didn't feel like having that kind of density was appropriate. Avery Trace, as mentioned, will have 2.75, 2.76 units per acre, 302 homes versus 306 as we originally submitted, nearly half of the lowest allowed density for this new designation. Our design was based on the Plan Gallatin plan guidelines. We know that Nashville is growing, and as a result, the submarkets are growing as well. In fact, Gallatin is projecting growth of 48.4% between 2020 and 2045. The design and character of Avery Trace master plan is patterned after the vision, design principles, and important outcomes from the Plan Gallatin plan. In fact, our plan meets 4 of the 10 important outcomes, but even more importantly, the Avery Trace plan satisfies the top 3 important outcomes. They are protection of providing open space and natural beauty, protection of environmental quality, and improvements to local roads and highways. This is just a map out of the Plan Gallatin that shows that the property is in the general urban character area. This is just a slide that represents that this could be 5 to 15 units per acre. And this is a side-by-side comparison of the original plan that we submitted when we submitted to the Planning Commission prior to having community and family Planning Commission feedback. So there's a lot of changes that's happened between the plan that we submitted and the revised plan that Planning Commission approved and the plan that's before you tonight. I want to go into this. Sorry, there's a delay on this. So we removed 2 lots at the entrance on Main Street to provide a soft opening into the community. I think the mayor requested that, and that was a good suggestion, and we were happy to do that. We felt that was appropriate. We also disconnected the road at the top of the hill, which I mentioned earlier, the top of the hill being Timber Lane, removing all traffic access from the community onto Timber Lane. We are now connecting at the bottom of the hill, as has been indicated. We reduced the number of homes on Timber Lane from 22 to 8, a significant reduction. That was a request of the neighbors. These lots are now approximately 15,000 square feet. Before they were 6,000 square feet. In addition to that, these homes on Timber Lane, we've agreed that they would be some of the larger homes, and in addition to that would also be side entry. And then we will fix the intersection at Timber Lane and East Main. I think that was mentioned earlier. The current design has a geometrical issue because Timber Lane doesn't align perpendicular to East Main. This is a safety issue and probably should have been addressed before now. But we'll work with Nick and the engineering team and make sure that's done right. Last, on the changes that we made, we added 59 additional guest parking spaces and overflow parking. These areas are spread out all over the connected area site so that you don't have just one parking lot trying to serve the whole community there. So it's central to and spread out over that connected area. So we now have 71 guest parking. Original plan had 12. The master plan is designed to protect the natural and hydrological resources. And I'll just mention that. I mean, there's streams where you see these trees here, here, here. So when we look at a plan, we like to get on the property, get a feel for the property, how it lays, the features, the natural features, and then try to work with what we have on site. And so that's what we did this plan. We designed it to provide the maximum internal and external buffers, designed so that the majority lots back up to open space, which increases the quality of the community and elevates home values. So you don't have houses backing up to each other in most of the development. Again, we're providing 57.3% open space by clustering. Clustering also helps with infrastructure and perpetuity. Clustering is what allows master plans like ours to protect the natural beauty. I am so sorry. and provide maximum open space. It's also important with clustering plans to provide that for attainable housing. Attached single-family homes are strategically placed in the center of the community, like it was mentioned. I think Mr. McCord mentioned that. So it's protected from view by the mature trees that, I don't know how old those trees are, but they're huge. So it is by design centrally located. So the only people that should see it should be the community itself. And it's designed to be a low-density community. This is just a Google image. I like to show this just so you realize we're not just coloring up pretty renderings. This is our plan overlaid on the original, the land as provided by the Google image. The neighborhood homes. I think Mr. McCord brought these up. We're proposing single-family homes detached that run from 1,740 to over 3,000 square feet. Mr. McCord mentioned the brick percentages where we will exceed the 70%. And as also mentioned, to provide the best streetscape diversity, we've asked that the Hardy be on the front with a mixture of stone and brick. The single-family attached homes range from 1,627 to 1,800 feet. It would have also the same material requirements. The traffic study, as I mentioned and has been talked about, we've done it in advance. The current traffic study shows the improvement at the intersection of East Main and Timber Lane, which I talked about. We would correct that. Also to widen Timber Lane where we are coming back into it, I think it's about 175 feet. We'll widen that to a current road standard, curb, gutter, sidewalks, what you would see in a typical road section. And then also align our proposed main entrance to Sunset Drive. I do have our traffic engineer, Rich Phillips, here tonight. In case we need to bring him up for any questions, we'd be glad to do that. I will mention that it came up that the traffic study has not been done at Hartsville, Pike, and East Main. We actually got traffic counts today, so we should be prepared to talk about those numbers next week. All right. Attainable housing. I think that's the new word. It's probably rightfully so. Home prices are rising, as we all know, which is putting pressure on attainable housing. By allowing diversity of home types, specifically connected single-family homes, it helps to mitigate this effect. As you can see on this slide, the median sales price is up $21,000 from last year and up nearly $100,000 in 2 years. The median sales price now is $440,000, up from $343,000 just 2 years ago. Couple that with the increased interest rates, these factors are becoming barriers of entry into home ownership for our children, municipal workers, teachers, first responders, police officers, firefighters, and businesses that look to relocate or expand their businesses in Gallatin. There are a lot of people who live outside of Gallatin that commute here every day. I think we all know that. Some by desire, and a large number of them just because they can't find attainable housing or attainable rent, for that matter. I spoke to Mr. Fenton a couple of weeks ago about this very topic. He said that his team is in the process of polling the top employers in Gallatin to quantify the number of people in their workforce that live outside of Gallatin. A sampling of the results indicates that several companies' employees live outside of Gallatin and commute to work. Here's just a quick sampling. Will Road, 90% of the workforce lives outside of Gallatin. Hoganey, 70%. Allegiant, 70%. The Gap, 65%. ServPro, 40%. I believe attainable housing is not only an issue for our city, but I believe it's an issue nationwide. So who is 10 Properties? Who are we? And what do we do? And how do we play a role in Gallatin and in the market in Middle Tennessee? 10 Properties is a real estate investment development company engaged in many types of developments, primarily in Sumner, Robertson, and Wilson counties in Middle Tennessee. 10 Properties is a land development division, acquires undeveloped or partially developed commercial and residential or mixed-use property and develops finished lots that are sold to third-party builders or commercial users. 10 Properties also owns and self-manages a portfolio of commercial, retail, office, and industrial rental property. Many of the properties in our rental portfolio were developed or constructed by 10 properties or were purchased or improved to a like-new condition. We've done that with several buildings throughout Gallatin. Through our relationships with strategic partners, 10 properties also invest in institutional quality, multifamily complexes, and self-storage facilities. Here's just a few examples of what the communities that we've done here in Gallatin. We purchased Stratford Park from the bank and completed it. We purchased Fairway Farms from the bank and quickly spent over $800,000 to bring roads, sidewalks, open spaces, and buffers up to a desired level. And we've now completed that entire community. In fact, Fairway Farms was recently voted the #1 neighborhood in Sumner County. We take pride in that. I think it shows that we like to do good quality projects in the city and really anywhere we are. I mean, it's just who we are and that's how we do things. One comment about those two communities, and both my daughters live in Stratford Park. These were we bought them when they were in a distressed situation. The bank took them back and the homeowners were just in despair. They didn't have the money to fix things that needed to be fixed. So we came in, we cleaned them up, got them fixed, and then finished them out. And now they're, I think, shining stars for Gallatin. Let me go back here. Sorry about that. We also designed and developed Cumberland Point. We also designed and developed Newman's Crossing to include revising the master development plan to bring Publix, the shops at Newman, Twice Daily, and soon to be McDonald's. This is in addition to that, if you've been out there, the traffic signal, the road improvements, all that was a result of this development here. So it's a nice asset for the community, and I go by that often, and it looks like it's doing really well. So we're proud of that. 10 Properties continues to invest in Gallatin. 10 Properties purchased 2 warehouses previously owned by the Crescent Furniture Company on Maple Street. We've refurbished those. Both are fully leased with combined square footage of approximately 180,000 square feet. Phase 1 of Aero Business Park, which I'm going to talk about next, is underway. We had a ribbon cutting, groundbreaking here just a little bit ago. I'll talk about that in just a second. When it's complete, it'll consist of nearly 1 million square feet of industrial space. Combined, 10 properties will be one of the largest holders of industrial space in the city of Gallatin, approximately 1.2 million square feet, which will produce hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax revenue annually and will create many jobs for the citizens of Gallatin. Investments like these also help to keep the residential tax rates low while improving the Gallatin economy. Aero Business Park, near the intersection of Airport Road and Cairo Road, as currently designed, will have 15 buildings in total. The first phase will range from 9 to 40,000 square feet. The additional buildings will remain flexible to attract users from 5,000 to 500,000 square feet to meet specific needs of the customers. Our goal is to build and retain these and put them in our rental portfolio. Our groundbreaking occurred on August 31st. We had a great crowd to celebrate this exciting event. Thank you, Mayor, Ms. George, Mr. Fenton, the entire economic team, and Chamber and their staff. Vertical construction on this first phase should start in the next couple of weeks. We're doing footings and foundations right now. I have a couple of short videos that I'll play, and they're only 40 seconds, I think, long, from the partners on East Main, on the project and on East Main, on Aero Business Park, just so that you can get a sense for the heart, passion, vision, and thought process that we put in to everything that we do. So with that, I'm going to play a couple videos just so you can kind of get a sense of who we are and what we do.
Over the last several years, we've accumulated about 90 acres in Gallatin out off of Airport Road, almost directly adjacent to the airport, all zoned industrial. Our goal is to create a business park there that we can accommodate tenants that have needs as little as 5,000 square feet or a single user with 500,000 square feet. I love just taking raw land, dreaming about, what it could be, what it could look like, and watching that transform.
We like to understand our tenants and understand their business.
Not only is that good for our business, it's just something we're interested in. We want to try and understand what they're looking for, and then ideally introduce them to the people in the community that we know that might be able to help them. Because we like to try and put them next to other tenants that will be helpful for them. And if we can find tenants whose businesses complement each other, then we feel like that's a win for everyone. If you're going to spend the majority of your day in any one place, ideally it's a place where you have some friends, you enjoy yourself, and you feel like you're better off for being there. And that's exactly the type of park we're trying to create.
Gallatin is certainly growing, that's no secret. Projects like this allow us to have sites ready, places for businesses that are interested in the Gallatin area to have a place to land.
One of the exciting things about what we have here is there's a complete variety of buildings, including some office space, industrial space, warehouse space, that will allow us to attract a whole bunch of different kind of companies and businesses to the area, and particularly with the proximity to the airport. I think that'll play a large part in some of the larger users that we'll find here.
It's just like when you walk down an aisle in a grocery store. If it's not on the shelf, you're not going to buy it. So this allows us to have those items on the shelf for them to look at and come to our area.
I think business is valued in Gallatin. I think business is valued in Tennessee. A diverse revenue stream keeps a community sustainable long-term and healthy and thriving and vibrant and attractive. And so that's what projects like this do for the city of Gallatin.
I think most, if not all of you know, we're local guys. We live, we shop, and support the community and the city of Gallatin. I've heard many times in meetings like this where people get up and say the greedy developers are just out-of-state companies who want to make money and leave. And that's just not who we are. We have chosen to invest in Gallatin in a significant way because we love the leadership, the vision, direction in which it's going. And we thank you guys for your hard work. I know it's not easy, and a growing city isn't easy, but that's why we're here. That's why we're all here. We love it. And Avery Trace is just another segment of our business that helps us to continue to invest in Gallatin. So I just wanted to take the time to share, to let more than anybody in the audience know that we're just not developers. We invest multi-millions of dollars into Gallatin and the Gallatin economy. I will say that I think the conditions have been talked about. There are some conditions that we have asked, and that would be the exception for the 36.8% in the townhomes versus the 30%. And then the Timber Lane Road, I think there's some discussion about that, and we're just asking that. I've met with Ben Harris, I've talked with Nick, I've talked to Mr. McCord. We feel like that for 8 homes, that's a big ask for us to improve Timber Lane. So we can have further discussion about that, but we're going to ask the exception to not be required to improve Timber Lane, other than what we're already going to be improving. The only other thing is a request to remove, and that's item number 5, where it talks about a right-of-way, 60-foot right-of-way. That's actually an easement that we're asking to be terminated. It's not required. It was just mislabeled on the plan, which is why Jillian put that comment in there. So we're just asking that to be removed. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stanton. Mr. Hayes.
Yeah, a question, and one was brought up about the roundabout, on Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something y'all would be willing to go in there and reconfigure that?
I don't want to give a firm answer. It's something we would look at, I guarantee you. We'll look at how much traffic is that we would project going down there and see if those impacts would require that improvement. But I can commit to you that we would certainly look at that.
Yeah, because looking at it, it's kind of semi there, but I don't think it's going to take that much to do that. But, just if you're funneling that traffic from, Timberline or whatever, down through there, I think you're going to get most of your traffic going that way, so.
Yeah, and the traffic engineer can talk to what he thinks the distribution of traffic is down there, but we can certainly look at that.
Can y'all look at that within the next few weeks, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. Mike, that was a really professional and well-made sales pitch, and I appreciate all that Tennessee Properties is doing here. They're doing a lot of good. Since you say that y'all are local to Gallatin, I think you need to learn how to say Cairo instead of Cairo.
And there's probably a lot of things I need to learn.
I live in that area, and I think it looks like a nice development, but I don't feel like it fits where it is. You know, let me just go in a different direction for a second. People that are around my age, whose parents grew up here, and several of us did, you've probably heard our parents talk about what the rest of East Main Street used to look like when they were growing up. Big, beautiful, stately homes, trees that met in the middle with the canopy of leaves. And then somebody allowed that beautiful street that Gallatin was known for to be developed. And now it's just a regular old street. Nothing bad about it, but just nothing really beautiful or anything to be known by. When I first ran for office, one of my things that I wanted to do was to keep the small town charm of Gallatin. When you ask most people, I would say, what they think is the charming areas of Gallatin, I think they would say the square and Old East Main. It's an old neighborhood. The houses are different, they're unique. Some of them are larger, some of them are not as large. Most of them are on nice-sized lots. It's a quiet area, except for the traffic is already bad. And as far as the traffic goes, there are a lot of places, as you all know, that you can try to turn onto East Main, and you feel like, gosh, is somebody about to come over a hill and hit me at any second? I mean, there's several places like that. I know that there's been a traffic study saying that a lot of that traffic is going to go to Hartsville Pike. Either way, it's all going to end up on two of the most congested highways that we've got around here, either Scottsville Pike, 31E, or Hartsville Pike. I was a teacher for 20 years. So for all those times, I would turn and go up there to Hartsville Pike, and I would sit. And like somebody mentioned, you sit there until somebody's nice enough to let you out. You don't get a chance just to go in the mornings when it's time to go to work. You just sit there and you wait. Now that's not. I think Hartsville Pike is probably even preferable to Scottsville Pike, because when you're trying to go to the left onto Scottsville Pike to get onto it, which I cut through those neighborhoods too to try to get down there, and that's what I would think almost everybody's going to do. They're going to cut through Hampton, Sunset, Bentley Circle, some of those streets on the side that have quiet neighborhoods, and they're going to turn left to go to Gallatin. Onto Scottsville Pike. Well, I've tried to do that at all times of the day. Some of the time it's quite easy because people are at work, but most of the time it's almost impossible. It's really hard. So I feel like that adding this many cars is just crazy to add onto East Main Street, which is already dangerous because of the hills. Anybody that lives over there knows that you'll have ambulances coming flying through there because they cut through from Scottsville Pike, where they're leaving the headquarters, and they're cut through to get to the hospital. So they're going super fast on East Main Street. Okay, so let's say that it's on I forgot what in planning, at the Planning Commission, how much visibility you're supposed to have that's safe when you turn and there's a hill. But let's say that it's raining, and let's say that you're trying to turn and you're not sure if somebody's coming or not, but here comes an ambulance, or here comes a fireman, or here comes just somebody going too fast. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. And as far as the open space, I've heard a lot about that. And the open space is wonderful. But from the people that I've talked to that grew up in that area and who know a lot about it, most of that open space is unbuildable anyway and has a cemetery. So that's what I've been told by quite a few of them. I mean, I appreciate the concessions you've made onto Timberline Lane. I think those were really helpful. That was good. Probably makes a lot of people feel better over that way. I just feel like this needs to go back and have fewer units, and I would really appreciate it if y'all would do that.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Javance?
Thank you, sir. I have to agree with Ms. Love. That was a great sales speech, and that was so great that I think you undersold yourself. You should ask for MU and put apartment there. I'm joking. I just wanted to see your faces all there, so you know how my constituent feel right now and look for. Ms. Love just talked about the open space, and again, I've been bouncing on that open space stuff since I've been sitting here. That was supposed to be talked at planning. That never happened. I'm wondering why. But when I agree, you don't touch that part because that's going to cost you so much money to deal with the stream and the creek. And I know that because when I started to get involved there, that was because of the development behind us. And they had to deal with the creek. They initially wanted to come back down to Longolo Park, and they actually sold us that property because that was costing less money for them to sold us the property than to deal with the creek, okay? Even if they had planned a bunch of houses there, they would not have make their money. So I remember, I probably paraphrase because I was at the planning when you were there, was where you were on the townhouse part, you were saying, you know, we think we should have more because we made concession and we have so much of open space. I disagree. I disagree with that. And I know your guys are really creative because Cumberland Point, for example, you know, you remember that what the city gave you there. The city let you use open space for Fairway Farm to make a higher density on the other side of the road. Okay, so the city gave you concessions too at that time. So don't, you know, please don't forget that.
No. Okay, let's keep it about this development.
Yeah, but
And I can respond to that to help clear it up. We owned both properties.
Right.
So we pulled property out of Fairway Farms, pulled it into Cumberland Point, and that's how we were able to do that. If we didn't own it, we couldn't do that. Mr. Johns, you're right.
Yeah, but we can talk about that later. But so to come back to the percentage of townhouses, and it's clear in the code, okay? It say R8 do not exceed 30% of the total number of residential units. That should not change, okay, guys? That should not change because the same is the exemption on the lot. What do we have a code for? As the question of the planner, he say, oh, we have done that before, so where that's gonna stop, okay? Where that's gonna stop? If we give townhouses, today we say 36%, if somebody arrive in 3 weeks or next month or in 6 months and say, I want 40%, how are we gonna say? Oh, I added 1 acre of creek I can't touch, so I want more percentage. If not, what do we have a code? Just get rid of the code and let everybody do whatever they want. I think That's not good. Until that's taken care of, I will not vote for it. I think I agree with Ms. Love. I drive that road. I walk that road when I run the first time. It's a beautiful place. It's near the historic district. Everything around. I actually printed it because, you know, I like to know where I go. I think that place should not be more than R15, R10 max, and that should be, you know, nice lots to complement the area. I have no problem with being developed. That need to be developed, but that need to complement the area. And what I see, the small lots don't do that. The big lots do. And again, you know, I disagree with the planner and on his expertise of what people want on the real estate side when say there is no market for big lot. There is a market because everybody I talk to wants. It's not everybody, but there is a market for that. If there was a place like Fairview back there, you would sell out really, really quick. Because again, when we talk about affordable housing, what's going to be your price point?
For us, I can't speak for the builder, but I think they've said, I think the connected homes, I think mid to upper threes, and then the single families.
So upper threes
fours
for
to
a
fives.
townhouse, that's right in the numbers right now. I look at the market in Gallatin today because, you know, I hear all that stuff about affordable houses. Again, it's changing the word. Okay, it's what we do now. We change words to make it different. We went from, sorry, it's not affordable, it's attainable now. Before that was affordable, now it's attainable. So it's a different word, which says the same thing. There is 428 listing in Gallatin, and the townhouse range from 306,000 to, there is even one for sale for 619,000. A townhouse, 619,000 in Gallatin. That's ridiculous.
Let's keep this to comments and questions.
Yeah, but that's part of my comment, that how we are talking about attainable, because 350 or I-300 is not attainable.
It's
So
$100,000 less than the median home in Sumner County.
And who judges what is attainable?
Well, he mentioned a bunch of factories. I don't think that that's attainable for most people that work in
Yeah.
factories.
So again, I think that need to be developed, but what I see there doesn't fit there. And we need to start to be different and do the right thing to make Gallatin keep the charm of Gallatin. I hear that all the time, but that's not what we're doing right now. So we need to do that. So I think the PRD doesn't fit there. There should be R10 or R15 and make nice, bigger lots. We're going to represent well that area of the city.
Right, especially, there's a golf course just down the street, and that would attract people that want nicer homes to include.
If you do a Fairview development, yeah.
I wish I had the lake. I would. So I'll respond to some of your comments. First of all, on the larger lots, I think Mr. McCord is correct. The market there might be a few people that want that, but it's few and far between. The market is very thin. And the last thing any of us want to do is do something that won't be a success. We don't want a community that's half developed, half built, and be some of the communities we go in and buy. That's not what we want to do. So we want to start out on what we think is successful. Creating larger lots goes opposite to attainability. Every foot that we pave on a road, every foot bringing utilities and pavement down a road, we used to say $1,000 a foot. Now it's more than that. But if it was a 100-foot wide lot, $100,000 worth, $100,000 lot, and then plus the cost of the lot, plus all the fees, you're at $200,000 lot. Typically, the sales price is 5 times the lot. That's the old number. I think it's different now. You'd be $1 million houses that market gets even thinner, especially in that area of town. There's not $1 million houses out there that I'm aware of. So larger lots goes contrary to attainability. And then additionally, we've heard R15. R15, the density could be 3 units an acre. We're at 2.75. I think people get confused with density and clustering. If you look at the plan, if you look at just the connected homes, if you look at that one single area, I would agree, that's more dense. But you got to look at it in totality, and it's 2.75 units an acre. To your point about we can't develop the other property, and there's maybe another comment made about that, we could easily do those things. Crossing streams is just a matter of time, permitting. One thing about the Tompkins farm is it would be a great project for a stream mitigation because the cows have been running on that property through those streams for years. So you could easily get any crossings that you want and then put even that potentially in a stream bank. That there's a process in that, but that's a perfect location for that type of
You're
situation.
saying that for my benefit, aren't you?
I didn't know that was your benefit. but-
Oh, no, I mean, that's just, I love that.
Yeah.
I wish there were an opportunity for a stream restoration project.
Yes,
in there.
and
I
this
think
is,
that'd be
anytime you
tremendous.
see cows crossing streams, as these have done for years, that makes it a perfect situation for it. As far as the 30% townhomes, I understand your concern. We're asking for the exception. The subregs gives planning commission, and then you guys have the same latitude to make that choice, and it's a choice based on a case-by-case basis. And, in this, what we're saying is that we have met with the neighbors, we've listened to their concerns, we've modified the plans to our expense, and that's fine. We took that, and we were okay with that. We just feel like that's a number that's appropriate. We think it's the right number. And again, you have the latitude to make that change. Also, the open space, I think, was in your staff report, is also a consideration for that. So we're asking for that exception, if you guys are willing to grant that.
So it's
Other questions or?
There's 2.7 homes per acre. Is that including the open space?
Sure. Yeah, that's the way you
How much
calculate it. You
is
don't-
it when you're not in per
I don't-
acre?
we don't
when you're
calculate
not
that way, so it
including-
doesn't enter my mind. I mean, no proper planning calculates based on
So it could be
area or
like 5
densities.
homes per acre.
It could be, but you can't look at it that way. You got to look at how many acres you're putting it on. And another benefit of clustering is, and I mentioned it, is maintenance over time.
Preservation happens.
Yeah, and preservation, but maintenance over time for the city, because you're clustering. You have less street networks.
Exactly.
I might have heard you wrong, but you're asking for a 30% variance. Did you say that if we did not,
They want more than 30%.
Our current
that you're
design,
willing to,
They want 36.8.
that's what we'd like.
And that was, I think that's why at least one person on the planning commission voted against it, because they weren't for putting it up to that amount. But anyway,
would you be willing to take that off the board?
Yeah, we definitely would be willing to look at it. I think we can make it work. If that's the will of the body, I think we would be willing to do that.
shift some to single family potentially.
We'll look at, we'll definitely, we would, if that's the will of the body, we'll go to 30% of towns. And we'll make the adjustments on single family.
Jeff, I'm sorry.
I have a question. With that, with looking at taking that back down to 30% and adding more single-family homes, where would those be added? Because I'm sure we all heard that they took away homes in a place where they had 22. They're only going to do 8 lots there. And then they have made other accommodations per the neighbors and people that already live there. So where would those be?
Yeah, we added some on one of our streets when we made all those changes. We just have to convert those back to single family homes.
Probably likely be where you see townhomes at this point.
Then too, additionally, I would like to say I like that there is a variety of homes. So you have townhomes, and since I've been on the council, every time we hear townhomes, it's kind of like saying that the crime rate increased 100% in the area. So I love that it's tucked in and only really the people in the subdivision would be seeing that, and you're not going to have people driving by seeing that.
Well, you know, he puts a point out there that they're tucked in, you can't see them. But, and I'm not a big fan of townhomes, even though my father might be buying one. But the townhomes we got, I think, look pretty doggone good in Gallatin. It's not like putting them on the back shelf that we're disappointed with them. I mean, the ones I've seen just really are nice-looking units, you know.
That's why spending time approving the right ones.
Dadgum, some of these townhomes are $900,000 in Gallatin.
Nancy Shores is over $1 million.
But either way, we've still got that number of cars. Whether they take away the townhouses, they're going to put in more homes. And we've still got too much traffic on that road, no matter which way you do it.
I got a question. Put a townhomes in the county, is it still a townhome or a
Mike.
county home?
I'm sorry, Mr. Fan. I didn't hear it.
You don't even want to hear it. It was silly. It was silly. Hey, I like to play traffic engineer, and I may be totally off base on this, but I travel that road every single day. I never feel like the traffic is heavy on it, but I do feel, and I mentioned this at the Planning Commission meeting, that there is difficulty when you're either trying to get through downtown or trying to get left onto 31. And so I would ask the engineering department, and I don't want to make Bill McCord scream at me, but you know, is it time for a signalized intersection at 31 and East Main? So,
I think that's great.
with
but
a lot of houses being built in that area.
people are still going to just cut through on Hampton or on Bentley Circle to avoid the light then.
Oh, I don't think so.
I do it right now.
I mean, but there's no light. There's, I mean,
why would you want to sit at a light when you can go on up another couple of streets and try?
I'm talking about those periods of time when you cannot get left out of there. Can't tell you how many times I have gone right, pulled into Grandview, turned around and pulled back out to get towards the park.
I'm celebrating my 40th year on Gallatin Road in business right by this proposed development. I think Bill McCord hit the nail on the head. What I see every morning is I think a lot of people's coming out of Red Bull and Springs.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere coming in our town because I'm at that area of town. It's not like I'm in the middle wondering where they're all coming from. They're lined up coming in just to go through Gallatin, or what we got 19,000 people coming in Gallatin a day to work and 10,000 leaving, but there's still a lot of those people that are going to other cities to work.
Right, going through Gallatin to go elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at all the development that's happened in the county, and there's a lot.
And they're coming in on Hartsville Pike and Scottsville Pike.
Yep, so probably 10,000 on each. No, quite a bit, though, quite a bit. Okay, any further questions on this, Mr. Juvance?
And Ms. Love, to answer your question about if we remove the open space, that's 6.4 per acre.
Even worse.
Okay, but
I'm answering Ms. Love's question.
I understand that, but I'm saying we can't keep, I mean, this is how, with clustering is how you preserve land in perpetuity. If you start saying, oh, that doesn't count towards something, then why aren't we just going to spread every house across every bit of land and not preserve large spaces of open space, which makes a prettier development, certainly a more manageable for the city, both financially and service-wise. You know, I like the clustered homes. It's better for our departments. It's better for our fiscal sustainability. And it is the mechanism that we currently have available where you can preserve pieces of land. And so I don't like it when we, are disparaging towards developments that are using that, what is considered a smart growth strategy. I mean, there's plenty of developments, if you drive out 31 or out 25, where you can see one home on every acre, and they're really ugly. I'm sorry, I should not say that. I'm so sorry. I want developments with landscaping, curb and gutters, all the things that make a beautiful development that sustains one.
And that's what this looks like.
And I want the charm of Gallatin to continue to be where it is.
And I think these kind of neighborhoods help create that. I mean, I drive down East Main and there are some lovely homes, but there's also, some duplexes that I hope to see redeveloped in time. And I think when you put some of these newer developments around there, because they're going to happen. I mean, these people certainly have a right to have their land developed. What works? What is development that supports our community at this point? And what would inspire redevelopment and support? A development like this also really supports our downtown area. Because I would love to get sidewalks added on East Main and have it be more of a walkable community. And then the East Main Park that we have that we want to get developed. Those are the things that all kind of come together as areas evolve and change.
I still contend that there's just too many, there's too many units being put on that road.
Where's the will of
Motion to
the...
send it on to
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hayes, a second by Councilwoman George. Any further comments, discussion, questions?
And you will look into my asking what I asked you.
Yes, sir.
and the roundabout.
Yes.
I want to make an amendment to send it on. I want to remove the 36% on houses. I want us to stick to the 30%.
Second that.
I didn't understand what he
I
said.
think he was saying that he wants to reduce the 36.8% of townhomes to the 30%.
I want to put it where it's in the code. The code say 30%, we need to stay there.
Sure, sure, but you can do it at this point, too.
I mean, I'm interested in his motion, but I'm willing to also hear what he says.
If they bring.
Right.
Well,
Please.
I have a motion.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion and a second on amendment, which would make it proper to be voted upon. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, the noes have it. We will return to the original motion for consideration.
One more thing.
Mike?
You say Mike?
Yeah.
I do have it on. I'm voting to push this on, but I am concerned about the 36%, if we could reduce that, okay?
Sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Any further comments? Okay, all those in favor of sending it forward to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no.
No.
Does pass 5-2 with Councilwoman Love and Councilman Javance voting against it. Am I correct in that? Okay. All right, we'll move on to item number 3.
Thank you all.
Hey, Chief Bandy, may I depart from the agenda for just one moment? You said in the department head meeting this morning, somebody brought up crime rate. What'd you say in the department head meeting today about the crime rate?
-7%.
Woohoo! So,
Yay.
thought y'all'd be interested to know that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Item number 3 is ordinance 02309-51. This is amending the Gallatin Municipal Code, Chapter 16, Article 2 and Article 6 related to parking. And for that, Ms. Hy McCauley and Chief Bandy.
Yes, Chief Bandy and I, amongst others, have been meeting about parking. There have been some issues that were brought up at council, and we were asked to address those issues. And we are addressing part of the issues with this, and this deals with our current developments. I do think that, as been discussed tonight and council has discussed in the past, for our future developments, we need to look at road widths and other things, but that is not my area of expertise, and maybe some more interior parking requirements. So I have met with engineering and fire and codes and planning and police, and that's something that we're going to look at. We probably would like a little bit more direction from this body, but tonight we're going to look at amending Chapter 16 related to parking, and this is for on-street parking mainly, but it deals with other things. And I'll just tell you, the first thing that we we did is instead of just looking at, there was an issue about on-street parking, and we wanted to, we were asked to correct that. That was something that we had put in, I believe, and was it 19 that we added, the no on-street parking? It was one sentence that got added to our ordinance, and I believe that was in 19 or
yes, ma'am,
21.
I think it was.
Hasn't
It
been
may be
very long.
21.
But in any event, instead of just looking at that one sentence, we looked at the entire chapter because there were things that need to be cleaned up in the entire chapter. And if you can clean up the entire chapter, that's probably the best way to handle it. So if you look at the ordinance that's presented, the very first thing that you'll see is section 16-33 was deleted in its entirety and replaced. And the only thing that we took out was illegal parking. So we actually had parking in two different areas of the chapter. It was very difficult when people were calling and saying, well, I can't find this in the parking section. Well, that's because it was in a different article. So we've pulled all of the parking out of Article 2 and put it in Article 6. So now 16-33 just deals with impoundment of vehicles. And then 16-35 was deleted. That was public parking lots, and that was removed and put down in Article 6 and Section 16-165. There were no changes to that. It was just moved so that it was in the actual parking article. From Article 6, we deleted all sections that related to parking meters because those are outdated. We no longer have any parking meters in Gallatin. I don't think that we're looking to put any in. So we've removed that. If we ever get parking meters back, we can add those in. But at this point, there was no reason to leave those sections in. So it's really a restructure, and then if you look at section 16-162, obstructing traffic prohibited. And so this really is what replaces what was in 16-33. The only thing that Chief Bandy and I did talk about right before the meeting is that in number 1, what we're going to recommend is that where it says it's unlawful to leave any vehicle standing, we're going to put or parked in any public street when such vehicle constitutes a hazard to public safety or an obstruction to the normal flow of traffic. Now, if you look on down in 16-163, there are a lot of ways that are actually prohibited that cause an obstruction, but this does give an officer discretion if someone is obstructing traffic to give them a ticket. Even if it's not specifically defined in another section. So you can't obstruct, we're still not going to allow people to obstruct traffic. Does everybody understand what I'm saying there? Yes. And that's the way it was in the past. And like I said, we had changed it in 21 to add one sentence that you had to be parked in a specific designated space, which really outlawed all on-street parking. That has been removed. Which was the ask from this body. 16-163, really, there are not a lot of changes. We just took 1630, the old 1633, and some of our other sections and added those in. So those are all prohibited parking. The rest of the chapter, there were not any, I would say, any substantive changes made. Have questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those, or Chief Bandy can answer those. I would ask that if you move this on, that we do put the or parked in 16-162 subsection 1, just so that it is, because if you don't know what a standing, and I didn't know what a standing vehicle was, that's typically a temporary stop to let people in or out. So we want to add or parked so that the police department will have discretion. If someone is obstructing traffic, they can still give a ticket for that.
I do want to comment that I don't think that the genesis of this was any complaint by the police department that you were overwhelmed. It was more about non-neighborly people not being accommodating to work happening in their area related to construction and lawn care, which our ordinance did not allow for. And so we wanted to make sure that particularly those kinds of activities could happen, but still not be allowed to obstruct traffic or have neighbors constantly bickering with each other because they thought somebody shouldn't be allowed to park somewhere.
And I know we'd gotten a lot of complaints also if someone would have people over at their homes.
Birthday
For birthday parties, Mother's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Our ordinance didn't allow people to have people over to their homes if they parked on the street. And this corrects that.
Comments? Mr.
Motion to send it on.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second by Vice Mayor Love. Councilman Javance has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Yesterday I drove around, so I appreciate what you guys did. I think that was a catch-22 ordinance because people visit, they don't know about it, and they get surprised. But like you say, the issue we have, I took some pictures on Cumberland yesterday. The issue we're going to have by doing that is dealing with people who don't think. That means they're going to park on each side of the road, and you know, we're going to have issue with emergency services. So I think we need to work right now and as fast as possible on making sure any new development has road wide enough to permit people to park one car on every side and have enough room to get our emergency services through. We can't wait for that.
Well, I know we have met, and I know that Chief Beeman would be instrumental in that, along with engineering. That's not my area of expertise. I'm happy to assist in any way that I can. That's certainly not my area of expertise, but we are working towards that, and if this body wants that to be a priority, we can try to, accomplish that.
That needs to be a priority.
Okay, so on this parking ordinance, any other comments? What?
I don't know, I kind of want to ask a question, but I don't really know what's the proper thing to, I've tried to follow along with Susan pretty well, and I think I have, but we're just more or less cleaning this up, and it's still against the law for people to park on the street.
No.
It is not, unless they're obstructing traffic.
Now, that doesn't mean that your HOA can't disallow people from parking on the street. And that is probably going to be a lot
And
of
if,
places.
I would say if people are parked on both sides and an emergency vehicle can't get through, that is obstructing traffic. And I think that this way the police,
That
because
is always going to
Are
be.
we now, I'm not doing anything to try to throw anything on you because I know you're stressed, but are we inviting danger by doing this?
that is not my area of expertise.
Well, let me just say one thing. I mean, I'm fine to pass it on, but I was hauling a car one time, and there was people out in the street, and they was parked. I sat right there and tried to get them to move it. They wouldn't move it. I turned around and went around that vehicle, and when I did, I come head onto a vehicle. I slammed on my brake. I did not hit the car did not hit me, but my vehicle that I was transporting come off my rollback and tore it up. And I tried to pursue that, and they said, well, the proper thing I should have done was to call the police because those vehicles should have been moved.
Well, the reality of the circumstance that we have currently is people park on streets every day in our city.
Yes.
And the police department enforces when there is complaints. What I wanted to see was, how do you do this? What I wanted to see is an allowance for construction vehicles and delivery vehicles and, like landscaping vehicles. But how do you delineate and not allow for the other, especially when you're talking about things like birthday parties?
Those are much larger
And so
vehicles that
you have
obstruct
to-
traffic even more.
So what we're saying is that in this new ordinance, what we're doing, what I'm understanding is it's temporary, like for landscape people,
No.
construction people. What if you've got the like in my neighborhood, where you don't have an HOA or something, you got the neighbor that parks out in front of his house all the time.
Well, there is something that is in our ordinance, that has always been in the ordinance, that they can't leave a vehicle parked somewhere more than 24 hours.
That's what I thought. Okay, that's still in there.
That's still in there, yes, it is.
Okay.
And Mr. Fennell, to answer your question, we did come with something in 2021, and that's why that was our doing, police department. And obviously, it's not well thought of, so we're bringing it out. So there's your answer.
I don't want to keep from you doing your job of what look what you've done for Gallatin and look where our crime rate is. I appreciate that. And I don't want to take up your time, but I just felt that, I just got a feeling that there could be problems out of this, and that's my 2 cents.
We have a definition of obstruction of traffic.
We do not. That's why it's left to officer discretion.
Which is difficult.
When we bought it initially, it was, like you said, for construction vehicles and stuff. And now it's open broadly. I'm okay with it, but if we were doing just construction, I lived in a city where that was just online. You had to go online on a city website, you were putting your information, you were printing your own pass, and you were putting on your dashboard, and when the police was arriving, if you had the pass, you were good. If not, they were ticketing you. So
But if they were impeding traffic, it would still be,
yeah.
I don't support the whole printing out a pass thing. I think that's asking a lot of people. So what is the will of this body? Do you feel like you want to ponder it some more, or?
No, there's a motion.
Yeah, motion is second, I'm sorry. Okay. Any further questions?
I've got a question about it. Most of our new developments are the HOAs.
Oh, yeah.
Could we put a requirement that they have a traffic plan once they develop it?
Not the HOA, but you can require parking, interior parking in developments. That's what I said, future developments, we need to look at the width of the streets and interior parking.
That should be a priority to work on, because the more development we approve, if we don't have that in, the more issues we're gonna have. So we need to make sure that everything is approved when we pass that ordinance as soon as possible, that we have that in a code and they follow it. That should come right away. That should be a priority to work on. So we don't have safety issue. There is enough room for everybody.
I think our planning departments need to get together and weigh in on that with the public safety.
Codes, planning, engineering, fire, police. And we have met a couple of times.
On that issue, they need to reach some kind of recommendation.
Can we vote?
Huh?
Vote? There's a motion. Can we vote?
Oh, I didn't understand you, I'm sorry. Any further comments or questions? Okay, this is voting to move 02309-51 forward to council. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Let's move along unanimously. Item 4 is ordinance 02309-52, appropriating funds in the amount of $22,350 for storm damage repairs.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a good night.
Thank you so much. We have a motion and a second. Comments, questions, discussion. It is broken down in the actual ordinance. All in favor of sending it along, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Does move along unanimously. Item 5 is Resolution R2309-75, Mr. McCord for the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals.
It's a resolution to appoint 2 members to the BZA. One member is currently serving on the BZA, and the other needs to be replaced because they moved outside the city limits.
Motion to approve. Or send on.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fennell, second by Councilwoman George. Any questions, any discussion?
Yeah, I will vote no on that because I disagree with the appointment. I know that has to come from the planning, but I don't think we should put someone who could have conflict of interest with zoning appeal, so I would vote no for it.
So CJ works for a developer, doesn't he not? Does he not?
He's a
He's an
developer.
engineer.
Or what company?
He has his own company.
615.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, it's Resolution R2309-75. All in favor of moving along, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Moves along, vote of 6 to 1. Item number 6 is Resolution R2309-76. And Richard DePriest.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution authorizing Gallatin Public Works to apply for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. It's Department of Energy, Federal Department of Energy that's putting it out. Gallatin has been, we can get up to $76,000. It's 100% funded by the Department of Energy, no match.
Motion to send it on.
Again,
Motion by Vice Mayor Love, second by Councilman Juvance. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Moves along unanimously. Item number 7 is R2309-77, which is revising the employee pay plans and updating job descriptions within the police department.
Good evening, Council. Courtney Russell, HR Director. So this resolution actually just separates out all of the police and police administration positions from the salary and hourly charts that were approved in July. And it allows for an increase in the base pay for 4 positions and then an adjustment in the pay grade only of 2 more positions within the police department. Chief Bandy is here. We work together on the effect of this, but it would allow us to be more financially appealing to both police trainees, so non-certified individuals, as well as certified individuals, to hopefully increase our recruitment for our police department as well as our retention.
Motion to send on.
We have a motion and a second. I feel strongly about this. I appreciate what looks like good support for it. You know, we always think we're doing well, but, you know, hiring police officers in this day and time is kind of a whack-a-mole situation where we raise our pay, everybody else raises their pay, we raise our pay, everybody else raises theirs, and you know that we can't let public safety and our police department slide. They're working on some other initiatives within the department, both on attracting and recruiting, even educating younger people to consider careers in law enforcement. So this is not just a financial strategy. It is a comprehensive strategy to help our great officers not have as much stress on them as they currently do. But I do think it's important to recognize that with technology, with the great experience that we have within our department and the dedication of our employees, that I would put our department up against any, especially even those that are more fully staffed than we may be at the current time. And motion and second. Any questions, any comments? Resolution R2309-77. All in favor of moving along, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It moves along unanimously. I thank you, and I know Chief Bandy does. This is something else I'm really excited about. This is Resolution R2309-78, approving grant application by, what's LIE stand for?
Local or logistics, I can't remember.
Whatever it is.
It's
on behalf of the city of
consulting firm,
Gallatin,
yes.
for federal assistance to the U.S. Department of Transportation's Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Program and Railroad Crossing Elimination Program.
I think it's local impact and analytics, something like that. Does that sound right, Susan? Susan just looked at it today, so. I could spend actually a lot of time on this, but there's probably not a lot of appetite for that tonight at this point. But
I want to hear everything.
I'd be happy to meet with you separately, but I don't mind.
Mr. Toe.
Just, what I would say is that the city of Gallatin has looked to make improvements between 109 and 31E along that Red River Road, Long Hollow Pike corridor for quite some time. We have made some improvements working with the state of Tennessee. We still have congestion along that corridor, particularly at railroad crossings. And we've worked with this local consulting firm to identify several U.S. Department of Transportation grants that we may be eligible for and may be able to win. And what we're talking about right now is hiring this firm to help us with these applications, which could be up to $2 to $3 million for planning money. That would be 100% federally funded and no financial obligation from the city at this time. Now, it could lead to other projects that may be 80-20 splits later on, but we have no idea what that is. That's why we're going through this process of the planning process and hiring a company to help us with that. We have money available to hire the company to help us. So again, no financial obligation for the city, but just an example of a project that could happen. We see that the city of Cleveland, Tennessee was awarded last year about this time a railroad crossing elimination grant that was about a $27.5 million grant that was an 80% federally funded, 20% locally funded project that would create a new grade separation or bridge over the railroad in Cleveland, Tennessee. They were the only city in the state of Tennessee that was awarded a grant.
I think they were like the only ones that applied, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah.
I think they were the only ones to apply in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, because originally when that was out,
The
you
new
felt like you had to
program.
have some danger threshold, but I think that they've got all this money to do these things because at some point there's a danger, right? And I think that would be such a good thing for that intersection, so I'm excited about that.
So this would actually look at not only the Red River Road intersection, but the Maple Street extension project. If you want to take a look at what the projects are that would be very closely looked at, take a look at Chapter 4 of the Gallatin on the Move plan, project number 1, which was identified, and we adopted that plan back in 2009. So there's a lot of detail there, and again, I'd be happy to go into a deeper discussion with you
Motion to
guys.
send it on.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Fennell. Any questions for Mr. Tuttle? Okay, moving along, Resolution R2309-78, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Moves along unanimously. Item 9 is Resolution R2309-79 to reclassify marketing and events coordinator position in the Parks Department to events and community tourism marketing coordinator in the mayor's office. Ms. Russell, with my help. This was something that I posed to you all quite some time ago as we're talking about trying to figure out tourism and Gallatin, even though there is a Sumner County tourism. Kind of occurred to me that people go to cities, they don't know their counties. And I think our Parks and Recreation marketing person has done a tremendous job. And I think our Parks and Recreation is so key to that tourism element that I would like to see that job expanded a little bit. At the same time, I want to see that job working better in concert with the communications director that is within our office. Not that I necessarily want this position in the mayor's office, that's not it, but I want them to be able to broaden that job responsibility to benefit more of Gallatin, to be a liaison with our nonprofits, to work with our historical properties, and to, help do the things that will help bring visitors to our city.
And I'll add in, Jenna has been exceptional.
Motion to send on.
Jenna's been exceptional in assisting multiple city departments with their marketing efforts.
And she already kind of does these things, and.
I think I saw her at Papalooza. I think she was.
Yes,
she
yes,
was
she
really,
does the events. She would continue to do those kinds of events.
She was so upbeat.
And the thing I do want to say about this is I am not firm on the date that this should take effect. And I did not realize that Mr. Brown wasn't going to be here this week. He's actually at the Parks and Recreation, so I hope he's not mad at me for putting it on here. We have
Actually spoke with them earlier
Okay.
today.
We have spoken with Mr. Brown. We have spoken with Ms. Maddox. And so we're just bringing this to y'all to go through the proper action so that we can make this happen at some point. Okay. Did I have a motion and a second? I forgot. Okay, motion and a second. All in favor of sending forward Resolution R2309-79, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Moves along with unanimous support. Item number 10 is our Public Works Annual Report. Mr. DePriest.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet, I put some annual reports for last fiscal year. I'm not going to go through line by line. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. One thing I did find interesting on our environmental services, we had a big increase, 5%, little over 5% increase in customers, and also trash cans being serviced, but there was actually a decrease in the amount of trash that was actually picked up.
That's exciting.
At first, I thought that was going to be because our recycling numbers were going to go up, but they actually didn't. The recycling numbers actually went down too, so.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just people becoming more aware, or maybe the
think COVID had a
post-COVID
lot.
shift.
I
Yeah,
think
the
the
post-COVID
post-COVID,
shift where people's trash is going to their office now.
But I
Or
thought
they're
it was-
eating out more, you know?
I thought it was interesting. But like I said, if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Y'all are doing tremendous work, and you're another one that's doing it with short staff, and I think just amazing employees.
How many are you short-staffed by?
My environmental services, we are fully staffed. Streets and stormwater, I have 30 full-time positions funded, and I have 21 employees. About a third of our streets and stormwater down.
So
Still struggling.
what do we need to do to help you make sure these jobs are secure? Because a third missing, that's a big number for me.
Yeah. The people that have left, high majority of them, it's been because of money. Taking jobs elsewhere to make more money. That's the number one factor, but, I mean, there's,
Same thing we tried to address in the last budget with, you know, similar to what we see with the police department, though not as severe, and particularly in lower wage jobs. There's a lot of competition, not enough workers, and everybody's raising their pay. Mr. Kellogg brought up something today at the department head meeting that's happening with service workers in his industry, where, you know, people are just desperate for employees and they're jacking up the wages, not so much in the higher level positions, but in those lower level positions because there's just not the workforce. And I keep having the conversation, you know, when we don't want houses in the area, that's the problem, is we have people who are moving here, but they're not participating in the workforce, and we need houses where our workforce can live so that they can work here.
I agree with that. I have an outstanding group of employees, I mean, from
They're working
top
so
to
hard.
bottom. And, yes, I mean, I want to do everything I can to hang on to them because they make my job a lot easier and do an outstanding job for the citizens.
They do. Best attitudes, too.
Can we do what we just did with the police to look if there is a way to make things better for the lower
Mr.
level?
Javance, I'm afraid that if you start going across all the departments, that you get into this, and this is what I struggled with in the budget, where do you stop that? And at which department? And what level of employee? And so I think that it's something that we'll have to address in the budget again this year to increase and continue to increase those wages. But we have to, you know, you can't stop it at employees making X dollar, because then what happens to those? They go up above the person that was making more than them to begin with. So you have to do it across all the departments with your lower, you know, wage employees and figure out a way to make it work for the taxpayers, for the workforce needs, for, you know, for the departments, because we are going, you know, while we're struggling with this competition in the lower wage, we're going to get to a point where the lower wage employees are taking over the higher responsibility positions, and then we have a challenge there. And so our department heads have been doing a tremendous job with managing their workforce. I know both Public Works, Utilities, have shortages in employees right now, as does the police department. Parks, I don't, where are y'all, do you have shortages? How'd you do? You did well with lifeguards this year, so. I mean, but I can see why it is particularly hard in some of the labor-intensive departments, because it takes,
Not easy, it's not easy work, and it takes
it's
a
very,
special
very hard
person.
work in the worst possible
Conditions.
environment. Yeah.
Hot, cold, rain, snow.
It's not easy, and they're doing a great job, but again, with what's happening right now, we have your department was short 30%. That's a third of your effective, and we still push everything on the growth side. Everything is linked, so the more growth we push, the bigger the department going to be, and we can't already feel what we have. So we need to do something somewhere. We need to start thinking of what's happening, and it's not all balloon and smile and stuff. We need to do something, because where are we going to go?
I got a question on that.
Yes, sir.
Is there, I don't know, you can probably answer, I know you can, but is there a possibility to bring some of these people out of retirement and part-time? Do you think you'd have any people that we might want to be interested in that?
Not the way the wages are set up.
That question.
I haven't got the numbers yet. I know we had requested from HR a number of employees in 2013 funded full-time positions. And that's one of the reasons, even before I took over, I know with Zach, we've added a couple of positions here and there to change some things up. But in the 2 years that I haven't added any operator, high-skilled level positions, because I can't fill the ones that I have.
You have built the skill level of your existing employees.
Absolutely. And we work hard in trying to train and promote from
the
within.
employees.
Yes.
That's been a very valuable effort by you and by those employees.
One other thing I did want to make mention of, a milestone, I'll call it. We did return inmate labor back in April of this year, and that has been a huge help. The jail has been great to work with. We've got one full crew, and hopefully in the future can have another crew. They've helped out a lot, took a lot of the jobs off of some of the other employees, so that's been a great deal. And also we have 7 adopted streets now that are getting trash picked up on them quarterly, so still promoting that as well.
Those things help.
And one is adopted by Jeff. Jeff, he's on.
But if you've got any questions on any of this, feel free to give me a call, email. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir.
Very, very impressive, as always. Financial reports, Ms. Nichols.
I have the financial reports for June and July included in the packet, along with the sales tax report as of June 30th, tagging along with the post-COVID numbers. Prior to COVID, we roughly ran about 4 to 7% growth each year on our sales tax. For 2020, 2021, 22 timeframe, it jumped up to 19 and 20% in sales tax growth, but we're back down to 9% over last year. So our sales tax numbers have leveled out, but still growing very well. Happy to see that. Our departments ended the year in good shape. Our budgets ended the year in good shape, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. That concludes the agenda and brings us now to other business. Who's got something? Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, talked with Nick before the start of the meeting, but I would like to bring it to you guys so we can give directions to that. I got a call from a gentleman today talking about the greenway at Station Camp and the safety, about the crosswalk just in front of the school, where you almost got run over, and another couple of people almost got run over on that street. So I would say if we can do something about it, maybe restripe or put more, more something on a road to let people know there's a crossroad there without spending too much money.
If that's the county's greenway, I think we should ask them.
The county meeting in next Monday, I can go there and ask if you
Oh, I
want me
mean,
to.
I'd be
I don't care.
interested to what Mr. Tuttle thinks is a good solution and then take it from there.
Is that a county greenway? Or we?
Well, that's a road, though it crosses. So it's our road, but
Yeah, we're willing to take a look at, I think, as Mr. Javons was suggesting, a little bit of update to the striping and additional signage is what discussed with Mr. DePriest. And I think that'll go a long way. We'd like to, there's already a raised crosswalk there. We'd like to avoid adding more maintenance-intensive lighting and push buttons and things of that nature if we can.
striping may well be very faded. That happens quick.
Well, and it's one of those situations where when you try to put striping and paint on concrete, it doesn't stay well and hold well, and there's not a lot of contrast either because it's a light-colored concrete and a white stripe, so you don't see it well. Maybe some reflectors
What
would
about
be a
neon
good
reflective
idea.
green?
The MUTCD does dictate what colors that we should use.
Of course,
So-
That's fine. Of course. So I defer to your expertise. Okay, anyone else with other business? Okay, department head reports. They just want dinner. Oh, Chief Beeman.
I've got a couple of things. Last meeting, I did tell you that I would share with you the list of traffic calming projects that we were taking a look at, and I wanted to bring that to you under this department head report time. And I mentioned the Belvedere and Peninsula Drive area as one of those. Wentworth Drive that is in Cambridge Farms. We've talked with that homeowners association many, many times, and so we're just having a consultant take a look at it in addition to us. Wildcat Run, which is in Twin Eagles neighborhood, also something that we've dealt with several citizens and probably talked with some of you council people on as well. Rodman Boulevard, which is something that I know we've talked with Councilman Hayes and some of the homeowners and homeowner associations out there about some always stops and some other treatments there. You guys heard from several citizens on Gibbs Lane and Martin Lane earlier this year. That's on our list to try to take a look at possibly some updated signage and other techniques that we think would be appropriate. Carrollton Drive, a new one to our list, thanks to Liberty Creek, I would say. Eastland is something that I know we've spoken with Ms. Love about numerous times and had a couple of ideas in the past, but want to see if we can find something that would be a good solution. So those are the 7 that we have on our list right now. We'd like to work through these before we start to add more, but I'm sure there are some others that you guys probably have thought of since I've been talking. And so I'd love to hear that, but we do want to try to push and work on this list first before we step off into, we'll say, phase 2. But this is money that you all were able to appropriate through the regular budget to allow us to try to move through some of these problems. So appreciate that, and I think the citizens will as well.
I was answering a citizen's, I didn't catch what you said. I was answering to a citizen. Did you say something about the PIC in Browns Lane?
No.
No, okay.
No, I did not. That could be phase 2 potentially.
Gotcha.
Now, and since that's an addition, that might be an ask of the developers of that amenity too. you
Yeah,
know.
because they're putting some lighting out there too, Sean.
That is.
Thank you, Nick.
I also wanted to mention that we received bids back on our paving program, and it does look like Rogers Group is the apparent low bidder. Again, although we did have two other bidders this time, which is fantastic. We normally only have one bidder, so we were excited to see a couple of other bidders and interest in doing work in Gallatin. Rogers, again, was the low, and we're looking to make that award, and hopefully we can get them scheduled here in I'd say about a month to 6 weeks, and get to work on the list that you guys approved earlier this summer. So,
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Tuttle. Chief?
Council, good evening. I'll make this quick and short. Last Tuesday, we did place the ARV, the Alternative Response Vehicle, into service over here at Fire Station 1 to handle the routine medical calls in this zone. And it's our plan to study this for 6 months to a year, take some lessons learned, establish some best practices, and look where we can place another one in service at another fire station across the city. So just want to keep y'all updated on that project. Finally, we got it done.
Nice, Chief. Excellent. Anyone else? I want to brag on Ms. LaFever real quick before we do. Huge upgrade last week, a lot of trepidation and fear, and it has gone tremendously smoothly. So she credited her team. I say, for your benefit, I need you to know that. Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you all for your attention this evening. Have a lovely night, and please treat each other with kindness.